Today, let's talk about the who, the what, and the how of Advent. Three of the so-called reality-revealing questions can help us reflect on the meaning of the readings on this, the second Sunday of Advent. There's an expression that I don't think you hear too much anymore that says, Christmas is for kids. Even if it were true, Advent is in a way definitely not for kids, at least real little ones, because it takes a certain amount of development to appreciate what we are about in this season of anticipation. Small children have little or no appreciation of time and distance. That's why you always hear the same question over and over again, are we there yet? And even though you say, no, it'll be another hour, in 5 minutes they'll say, are we there yet? To celebrate Advent, it's necessary to be able to differentiate time and space. It's a period of living in the here and now, but also looking backwards to the time when Christ was born and looking forward to the second coming of Christ. And it's also a Christ in the here and now that we need to celebrate, and we need to make his presence known in the world. So that requires the who of Advent being a little bit older. Certainly teenagers and adults might be able to appreciate that more so than real little children. The what of Advent can be many things, but let's limit ourselves today to the virtue of hope. Václav Havel was a talented writer who became the first president of the Czech Republic in the last century. Among other things, he wrote about what hope is and what hope is not. And he was writing during the struggle for independence that was still underway and not all that guaranteed. This is what he wrote. Hope is definitely not the same as optimism. It's not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense regardless how it turns out. It is hope, above all, he writes, that gives us strength to live and to continually try new things. Even in conditions that seem as hopeless as ours do here and now, in the face of this absurdity, life is too precious a thing to permit its devaluation by living pointlessly, emptily, without meaning, without love, and finally, without hope. This what of Advent is made clear in the first reading that we have from the prophet Baruch. We almost never read from Baruch. And he personifies the city of Jerusalem and urges her to take off your robe of mourning and misery. Stand upon the heights. Jerusalem was defeated, and he wanted to proclaim a message of hope. He talks about every mountain that will be made low and every valley filled in. The very same image we hear in the gospel. Advent, then, is a time to believe in the power of God to overcome all evil, even when we don't see how that's possible in our own lives or in the lives of others. Advent is a time to profess belief that the mountains in our own lives, those things that seem impossible to overcome, will not defeat us. And those valleys full of despair and defeat will somehow be filled in. Finally, the how of Advent. Again, from many possibilities, perhaps we can isolate the prayer uttered by Paul in the second reading. He was talking to the people of his day, but in a sense, it's proclaimed here and is alive. He prayed, "No, my prayer is that your love may increase and that you can discern what is of value." That'd be a great way to mark the Advent season, to learn the value of things, to learn what really matters. And the way we learn to do this is to understand the experience of the presence of God in our midst, Emmanuel. Perhaps if we were able to do this, our mountains would indeed be made low and our valleys filled in. Advent is for adults and adolescents because it's only in these stages of growth that we really understand the challenges life gives and the meaning that faith offers. As we continue our prayer this afternoon, why don't we ask God for the grace and strength to mark this season of anticipation as people who are convinced of the presence of Christ in human history, even today. And may this conviction mark us as people of hope.